Imagine this scene, a snapshot of modern life that repeats itself in any metropolis. A man sitting alone in a coffee shop. It is not forced isolation. It is a serene choice. Around him, the digital buzz is deafening. Everyone seems immersed in their screens, frantically seeking the next instant validation. Likes, comments, reactions from strangers. Couples take posed selfies, groups gossip about the latest viral video, and lone wolves swipe through dating apps as if their lives depended on the next match. But this man, he is immersed. His headphones are a portal to a philosophy audiobook, a dialogue with ancient minds. While most seek to numb their minds with algorithms and superficial dopamine, he seeks depth, self-knowledge. He is not alone. He is his own company. He is not desperate. He seeks nothing from anyone. And believe me, it is precisely this autonomy, this lack of need, that makes him the most dangerous person in that entire environment. But why? Why does the figure of someone who is truly comfortable in their own skin, who doesn't need a constant stream of external validation, who can simply be with their own thoughts without feeling the compulsion to escape them? Why does this terrify society so much? The answer is simple and, at the same time, deeply uncomfortable. Society does not fear the man who cannot be alone. It fears the man who does not need to be with anyone else. Keep that idea in mind. This is not an empty provocation. It is the gateway to a hidden truth. We are about to dive into something that will demystify the perception of loneliness and radically change the way you view self-sufficiency forever. Prepare yourself, because the reality of personal independence is, at its core, much more complex and surprising than anything you have ever been taught. Here lies the brutal truth that almost no one has the courage to admit, let alone face. Our entire social structure is built, sustained, and fueled by your need. Think for a moment about the logic inherent in almost everything that surrounds us. Every advertising campaign that convinces you that you need something to be happy. Every social media platform that traps you in the relentless pursuit of approval. Every dating app that sells you the illusion that completeness only comes from outside. Every self-help guru who promises to solve your problems through an external connection. All of these pillars operate under a single fundamental assumption. You are, by nature, incomplete without others. Find your soul mate. Connect with your friends. Build your network. You need a community to be happy. This is the lullaby of dependency, sung incessantly since childhood, shaping our perception of what it means to be a successful or normal individual. But what if all of this were, in fact, an elaborate illusion? What if the man we observe in the coffee shop, perfectly content in his own company, represented something so fundamentally threatening to the social order that we collectively agreed to label him as lonely, antisocial, eccentric, or even problematic? What I have learned, and what this video will reveal to you, is that society, at its core, does not fear the man who cannot be alone. Society fears the man who truly does not need to be with anyone else. This is the basis of our modern dilemma, a veiled contradiction. You have been systematically taught to fill voids that never really existed in your essence, but were created so that you could fit into predetermined boxes shaped by the interests of others. Once you realize this subtle manipulation, this almost invisible conditioning, the world around you will never look the same again. The human mind, such a rich and complex structure, has been conditioned to operate in a mode of relentless external seeking, a relentless search for acceptance, a continuous search for belonging, an exhaustive search for approval. It is an addictive cycle, an upward spiral, meticulously fueled by a system that thrives and profits directly from your constant search for external validation. Every like you chase online, every comment you eagerly await, every crumb of validation you crave, all of this is not just social interaction, but the raw material of an economy of insecurity. It's not about pointing the finger at a generic, abstract system as the sole culprit. Instead, the key lies in recognizing how our own cognitive biases and subtle cultural conditioning, from mass advertising to the invisible pressures of social media, unwittingly shape our most intimate perceptions and our most important decisions. The radical freedom that emanates from true self-sufficiency is, at its core, deeply subversive. It is not just an individual trait, but a force that breaks the web of controlled interdependence that underpins much of our economy and social hierarchies. Consider two figures, separated by centuries, but united by a deep understanding of the human condition, who uncovered and lived this dangerous truth. Friedrich Nietzsche and Marcus Aurelius. They were not recluses or social hermits, but masters of their own company, individuals who discovered that real power, true sovereignty, lies in the ability to think for oneself, to create one's own values, and to not be swayed by the ephemeral waves of popular opinion. For them, philosophy was not an abstract intellectual pastime, but a living armor against mediocrity, conformity, and manipulation. It was the essential tool for forging an unshakable soul, an inner fortress. And it is precisely this inner forge that we will explore in depth below, revealing how personal independence is subversive, and not loneliness itself. At this point, the question is no longer whether society teaches you to be dependent, but how a few, throughout history, have managed to break these invisible chains. Here comes the role of philosophy, not as a dry study of ancient books, but as living armor, forged in the fire of experience and thought. Allow me to introduce you to two masters of this art, men who, in radically different times and contexts, discovered that true strength lies in the ability to inhabit one's own mind without the need for external crutches. I am talking about Marcus Aurelius and Friedrich Nietzsche, figures who, in different ways, revealed the subversive power of being an individual who does not bow to the herd. Let's start with Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful emperors the ancient world has ever known. A man who had the power to command legions, move empires, and have any desire fulfilled with a mere nod of his head. However, in his most intimate writings, the Meditations, he revealed a discipline of life that would shock most people today. Marcus Aurelius spent his nights in deep introspection, writing to himself, questioning everything. He practiced what he called the discipline of desire, a brutally honest exercise in self-evaluation. He asked himself, what did I want today that I didn't really need? What did I fear was beyond my control? Where did I seek external approval and compromise my values? This was not mere journaling. It was rigorous psychological training. He was building mental muscle, strengthening his soul against the pressures and manipulations of the outside world. Marcus Aurelius understood something profound. The person who knows themselves intimately, who has spent enough time alone with their own thoughts, cannot be fooled by the superficial games that others play. When you examine your own motivations, when you face your shadows, other people's opinions lose their power over you. Attempts to manipulate you become transparent, and social games simply boring. You become dangerous because, at your core, you become free. Now let's bring into the conversation a thinker who took this idea even further, to the point of rupture. Friedrich Nietzsche. He proclaimed that the individual has always had to fight to not be overwhelmed by the tribe. Nietzsche asserted that the truly dangerous person is the one who creates their own values, rather than simply inheriting them from society. The vast majority of people live by a moral code they never chose. They believe what they believe because their parents believed it, their friends believe it, their culture believes it. They live a life dictated by echoes, not conscious choices. It's as if they are following a script written by others, without ever questioning whether the role suits them. But the person who devotes time to solitude, to deep introspection, begins to ask uncomfortable questions. Why do I really believe this? Who benefits from my belief in this? What would I believe if I had to start from scratch without outside influences? This is where things become truly dangerous for established structures. Because once you start thinking for yourself, you cease to be predictable. You are no longer easily controllable. You are no longer a good little consumer who buys what you are told to buy, votes how you are told to vote, and lives how you are told to live. Philosophy, in this context, is not a refuge for intellectuals, but rather the cradle of autonomy, the place where the soul learns to forge its own path without asking for permission or approval. The armor of philosophy allows you to face life not as a passive spectator, but as an active creator. With this philosophical foundation in mind, it is crucial that we unravel one of the greatest misconceptions of modern society: the confusion between loneliness and solitude. They are, in fact, diametrically opposed states of mind, although our culture insists on treating them as synonyms. Loneliness is a state of deprivation, a painful emptiness. It is the feeling that something is missing, that you are incomplete, that you desperately need others to fill a hole inside you. Loneliness is pain, a search for external fulfillment. Solitude, on the other hand, is a state of wholeness, of completeness. It is the ability to be complete in oneself, to enjoy one's own company, to find peace and clarity in inner silence. Solitude does not seek to fill. It emanates fullness. Our society deliberately confuses these two states because it benefits immensely from this confusion. A lonely person is a voracious consumer. They will buy products to feel better, seek validation through acquisitions, remain distracted, and consequently complacent. But a person who genuinely enjoys solitude, they are not buying anything to fill a void. They are not seeking constant external validation. They are not easily distracted. They are thinking. And people who think, who are at peace with themselves, are inherently dangerous to systems built on unthinking conformity. After delving into the teachings of Marcus Aurelius and Nietzsche, I identified 4 fundamental principles, 4 pillars that underpin this dangerous solitude, which gives the individual an unshakable strength and a freedom that transcends social conventions. The first pillar is radical self-honesty. The dangerous loner has learned to be relentlessly honest with himself about his deepest motivations, his most intimate fears, and his most sincere desires. He doesn't lie to himself to feel better. He faces reality head-on, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. This makes him dangerous because he develops an almost supernatural ability to sniff out lies in others, to see through manipulations, and to not be fooled by pretty words or social performances. He is not an easy target. The second pillar is independence of values. These people have developed their own moral code, their internal compass, based on reason, personal experience, and reflection, rather than social pressure or blind tradition. This does not mean they are amoral. On the contrary, their morality is often more robust and authentic than the average person's. But their ethics come from within, not from an external authority. This makes them dangerous because they cannot be controlled by shame or social guilt. They do what they believe is right, regardless of what others think, even if it means going against the grain. Next, we have emotional self-sufficiency. They do not depend on others for their emotional well-being. They have learned to regulate their own emotions, to find peace within themselves, and to be their own source of strength and security. This ability makes them dangerous because they cannot be emotionally manipulated. Your approval, love, or acceptance are not bargaining chips for them because they already feel complete. They don't need the outside world to tell them they are valuable. They already know it. Finally, the fourth pillar is intellectual courage. They are willing to think thoughts that others avoid, to question beliefs that most take as absolute truths, to follow the trail of evidence and logic even if it leads them to uncomfortable or unpopular places. This makes them dangerous because they cannot be silenced by social pressure. They will speak uncomfortable truths, even when it costs them socially, because their intellectual integrity is more important than the applause of the crowd. These 4 pillars form the essence of a freedom that, ironically, society fears. We have reached the crucial point of this journey, a turning point where theory meets reality. Being an individual who embraces this dangerous solitude, who forges their own philosophical armor, comes at a price. Let's not romanticize it. This independence, as liberating as it may be, does not come without its challenges. It is essential to recognize that there will be a cost for choosing this less traveled path. People, and this is almost inevitable, will misunderstand you. They may label you antisocial, arrogant, or simply weird. They will try to pathologize your preference for your own company, because the human mind has a natural tendency to categorize what it does not understand as deviant. And you will sometimes feel isolated, but it is vital to understand the difference. It is not loneliness, which is a lack of connection. It is isolation, the realization that most people operate on a different level of consciousness, and sometimes this can be subtly melancholic. You will realize that the vast majority of people live immersed in a kind of fog of dependence, a constant buzz of external approval. And when you free yourself from this fog, the clarity can be overwhelming, revealing the distance between your perception and theirs. This clarity, paradoxically, can bring a sense of strangeness. And yes, you will probably lose some relationships. Those people who were invested in your need, who felt comfortable with your quest for validation, may feel threatened by your newfound independence. Some friends will simply drift away, while other family members may feel uncomfortable with your growth, with your refusal to stay in the same place, stuck with the same expectations. In addition, you will face constant pressure to conform. Society, through subtle and not so subtle mechanisms, will continually try to pull you back into the herd, into conformity. There will be a constant call to be more social, more normal, more like everyone else. But here's the even deeper truth. The price of conformity is infinitely greater. The price of fitting in, of repressing your true essence to fit into the mold of others, is your very soul. It is the abdication of your autonomy, your ability to think for yourself, to feel for yourself, to be yourself. Let us, then, unravel why this self-sufficiency is so threatening to the structures that surround us. The reasons are multifaceted and surprisingly practical. First, the economic reasons. Our global economy is largely built on the principle that you need to buy things you don't need, often to impress people you don't even like. A person who is content with themselves, who finds value within themselves, is not a voracious consumer. They don't easily succumb to the calls of consumerism. They are not a good customer for a system that depends on dissatisfaction to thrive. Second, social reasons. Social hierarchies, structures of power and prestige depend fundamentally on the importance people attach to status. If you don't care about status, if your value is not derived from social positions, you simply cannot be controlled by it. You become unpredictable, a disruptive element that doesn't fit into predetermined boxes. Third, the political reasons. Democratic systems, and even authoritarian ones, depend on the ability to influence public opinion. If you think for yourself, if you question the dominant narratives, you become much more difficult to manipulate politically. You are a conscious voter, not a herd voter. And finally, the psychological reasons, perhaps the most profound. Your independence, your self-sufficiency, serves as an uncomfortable mirror for the dependence of others. Your contentment illuminates the discontent of others. Your freedom silently exposes the invisible prison in which many find themselves. It is an uncomfortable truth for those who have not yet made the journey. So how do you become dangerous in the best possible way? How do you develop the kind of solitude that liberates you, rather than isolating you in a negative sense? Ancient wisdom, filtered through modern experience, points the way. Start with small doses. Set aside time alone, without distractions. No phone, music, podcasts. Just you and your thoughts. Start with 10 minutes and gradually increase. Practice nightly review, like Marcus Aurelius. Each night, reflect on your day. What did you do well? What could you have done better? What did you learn about yourself? Question your beliefs, like Nietzsche. Regularly examine what you believe and why. Don't accept ideas just because they are popular or traditional. Think for yourself. Develop your own moral code. Decide what kind of person you want to be, based on reason and experience, not social pressure. Learn to enjoy your own company. Find activities you genuinely enjoy doing alone. Reading, walking, thinking, creating. Build a rich and vibrant inner life. And hardest of all, stop seeking external validation. Stop seeking approval from others. Stop caring about likes, comments, social status. Find your value within yourself. And here lies the beautiful irony of this dangerous solitude. The person who doesn't need others paradoxically becomes the most attractive to others. When you are complete in yourself, when you are not needy or desperate, when you have your own source of strength and peace, it is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to this energy. But the key, and this is fundamental, is that you don't do it to attract others. You do it because it is the authentic path, the path to a fulfilling life. Attraction is a byproduct, never the ultimate goal. Your relationships improve when you don't need them. You choose to be with someone because you want to, not because you need to, and the dynamic becomes infinitely healthier. Your friendships deepen when they are optional. You are friends because you genuinely enjoy each other's company, not because you are lonely, and the friendship becomes more authentic. Your work becomes more rewarding when you're not desperate for approval from your boss or co-workers. You can focus on doing a good job for your own sake. Your life, as a whole, takes on a deeper meaning when you're not constantly seeking external validation. You can finally focus on what really matters to you. So here is my final challenge for you. Become dangerous. Not dangerous in the sense of harming others, but dangerous in the sense of being impossible to control. Dangerous in the sense of thinking for yourself. Dangerous in the sense of being complete in yourself, of having your own values, your own moral code, your own inexhaustible source of strength. The world, in its eagerness to conform, desperately needs more people who cannot be bought, who cannot be manipulated, who cannot be silenced. The world needs more individuals who are comfortable in their own skin, who don't need constant validation, who can sit with their own thoughts without feeling the need to escape. Yes, the world needs more people who are, in their purest essence, dangerous. If this message resonated with you, if it struck you in some deep way, do yourself and this channel a favor. Share it with someone you know who needs to hear it. Leave a comment and tell me, what is a belief you have carried with you, but never chose for yourself? What is an area of your life where you have sought external validation instead of developing self-respect? And remember, in a world full of people desperate to fit in, the most radical act is to learn to be alone. Stay dangerous, my friends.
If you've made it this far, you've already taken a step beyond most people. You're subscribed to the channel, you watch the videos, you reflect on every idea. Now the question is, how far do you want to take this? If you want to take the next step and truly apply this knowledge to your life, the White Rabbit Codes is ready for you. The link is in the pinned comment. Remember, success is a decision. The choice is yours. Count on me and follow the White Rabbit.